Follow up, General Brown, with the questions that the chairman started with. As I read the press reports about the Airman First Class who allegedly took perhaps hundreds of sensitive classified documents, the first thing that came to my mind is whatever happened to need to know. That is the principle that is supposed to oversee and restrict access to sensitive classified information. Instead, allegedly, this Airman First Class used the JWIC system, the classified internet system, to access all sorts of sensitive classified documents that had absolutely nothing to do with his job. Is the need to know principle still in place?
Senator Collins, is very much,
Secretary Kendall?
yeah, it is very much in place. General Brown mentioned the letter that the Secretary of Defense had put out, tasking a review across the entirety of the department in very great detail of all of our security practices. The two chiefs and I put out a letter this morning which emphasized the point that you just made about need to know. We need to enforce it much more rigorously than it appears to have been in this case. I will say that we don't know all the facts here yet. There's a criminal investigation going on. That's been the first priority, to make sure that wasn't interfered with. But we've turned on 3 other things to look at this across the board. I've tasked our Inspector General to go look at the unit and anything associated with this leak that could have gone wrong from the point of view of implementing our policies, to see what things allowed this to happen, to get to Senator Tester's initial question. We're turning on a complete review of our policies themselves within the staff to make sure our policies are adequate, and that'll be illuminated by what we learned about what happened in this incident. We are asking the entire force to do a stand down, to review their security practices, to conduct training as necessary, respond to the Secretary of Defense's guidance. There is a full court press going on about this. We're all disturbed about it, and we're working very, very hard to get to the bottom of it and take corrective actions.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. One follow-up question for you on this issue, and that is, it appears that this was going on for many months without the airman allegedly being caught. And when he was caught, it was because of investigative journalism, not the controls within the Air Force. That is equally disturbing.
That is absolutely one of the things we'll be looking at. Apparently, he shared it from press reports with a group of friends in a chat group that was supposed to be isolated. It got out of that group, and it was there for, as you say, for a period of months. It got out of that group, and there's some press reports more recently about it being disseminated by some other people. We're going to get to the bottom of all of that. We have to tighten up our processes and our practices to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Thank you. General Brown, last year I met with former Defense Secretary Gates, and I asked him what was the most important thing action that we could do to strengthen our national security. And I expected him to say, have a larger Navy or improve recruitment or answers like that. Instead, he said, no more continuing resolutions. And you made a reference in your testimony. Could you, so that everyone understands the harm of putting the department on a continuing resolution, illustrate the problems that it causes for our military?
Sure. The key part here is that if we have a pacing challenge, we cannot outpace our pacing challenge if we have a continuing resolution. There's aspects of lost buying power in this case. If we had a continuing resolution, it's about $9 billion of lost buying power. The other aspect of the series of continuing resolutions we've had over the past probably 10 to 12 years, we've lost probably about a quarter of that in continuing resolutions, which prevent us from doing new starts, getting equipment into the hands of our airmen and the rest of the joint team as quickly as possible. It impacts our families. because their pay raises and/or their ability to move to new locations and continue with their career and their development and education of their children. But I think the key part is just the aspect of us not being able to have a steady pace of acquisition and supporting, to the chairman's point, on the defense industrial base. When we have what I would call a bit of a roller coaster ride, it's hard for them to facilitize and get the workforce to be committed. And by having a continuing resolution, it just slows us down. And when we're trying to accelerate, it is not helpful.
I completely agree with you, and thank you for your answer.
Chairman Murray.
Well, thank you very much, Chair Tester and Vice Chair Collins. I'm really glad to join both of you again as we continue to hear about the resources that our nation needs to stay strong and safe and competitive on the world stage. And as Vice Chair Collins just talked